Hey, welcome back to the channel. So in this episode, we're going to talk about Arcana. And he is probably the most useless epic esper in this game. Like 99% of the players will have agree with me. So in this episode, I'm gonna show you a good side about Arcana. But really, still, even after I'm trying to show him his good side, like I don't recommend you trying to make use of him unless you are very, very, very bored of this game. Like you don't have any other esper you do want to try to use, then yeah, feel free to try Arcana. So let's take a look at his skill. The first skill attacks one enemy, damage 120% attack, 75% chance of inflicting attack down for 2 turns. So 120% attack is a normal damage or a basic ability. 75% chance of inflicting attack down is quite alright. It has a 50-50 chance of you inflicting the attack down on your target. So the basic ability is quite alright. Then the second ability attacks one enemy 2 times, damage per hit, 100% attack. So this is gonna deal a total of 200% attack damage, and each hit has a 75% chance of inflicting stun for 1 turn. So you have 2 chances of doing this. So it has a really high chance of inflicting stun. Obviously, it's not as high as someone else who has 100% chance of stun and multi-hit, but it is still something. Like you can expect to hit this more than this attack down in here, because it has a two multi hits here, two chance of you to throw a coin to inflict a stun in here. When the enemy is afflicted with miss rate up, all their debuff durations plus one turn, and this ability won't miss. This is the best part about the second skill. Like if you pair him up with other esper that can inflict miss rate up, this is gonna increase their debuff durations plus 1 turn. Sometimes this is quite an okay thing, a good thing to happen, because it doesn't mention that the debuff duration is incapacitating debuff or not. So all of the stun, freeze, petrification, sleep, all those things can also be extended, the durations, by 1 turn. So who gets the most benefit out of that? This boss in here. Wait, not this one. This boss here. This guy, for better. If you want to extend his sleep, you can try to use Arcana in doing that. But really, it's much better to just try inflicting as many sleep as possible rather than trying to extend the debuff, because after a while, the boss gonna move really, really fast. Comparing to your cooldown in here, you cannot catch up with increasing the sleep before the enemy run out of sleep, because of the turn that they run super fast. So really, if you do want to increase the debuff durations of the enemy, the best one is to put it on the basic ability, because this gonna happen quite often. Like you don't need to wait for the cooldown to finish in order to increase the enemy's debuff duration, and it also has a chance. It's not a guaranteed thing to happen. It has 100% chance of happening, but it is still affected by your accuracy and the enemy's resist, even though it won't miss. So won't miss means that even though you are a win element, you don't get a penalty in inflicting this debuff to an inferno enemy. But all bosses are simmer. So yeah, this is quite alright if you don't have any other choice, but there are a lot of better expert to do this job. So if you do want to ignore this effect, then the effect from this thing, you do want to see the damage and the stun. The stun is also alright, but because this is not an AoE damage, so you can only stun one enemy, and sometimes that is not enough, because you do not, if you want to control the enemy using stun, freeze, etc., etc., you do prefer to do it with an AoE attack. So stunning a single enemy is just like a nice little bonus, so you cannot really count on this either. And the damage, as a single target damage, like, we already know by now that we have Brian as benchmark. This deals 300% attack damage while inflicting freeze and defense down with 100% chance. And also the cooldown is only 3 turns. So yeah, having it on the second skill, this is why the damage is quite low, because this is not a second skill, not the ultimate. So they put it as a 200% attack, but really the cooldown is still 3 turns, the same one as Bright. So you kind of like, getting downgraded just because this is on the second skill. I would have preferred to just put this on the third skill. And going into the third skill, this is what kind of like, make Arcana a little bit useless. Now looking at this third skill, attacks all enemies damage 100%, 110% attack. So this is 10% higher than other AoE damage, like the benchmark of the AoE damage. And steals 1 buff from its enemy, and its stolen buff grants Arcana plus 30% AP. So if you are able to steal 5 buffs from each enemy, you will get 150% AP, which means that you're gonna get a bonus turn for Arcana. So he's gonna cast his third skill and then followed up by his second skill straight after. So, and all other allied espers plus 5% AP, this you will get from the 6 resonance of Arcana in here. Its buff stolen gets AP plus 5% to allies other than Arcana. So this is really good. If you can manage to steal 5 buffs, then this is gonna give your allies 25% AP, but the requirement is that the enemy has to have buffs first. So this can be useful in Infinite Tower, where there are sometimes a debuff there that gives the enemy immunity at the beginning of their turn. Usually you do want to remove that first. So a lot of options there. You have TA, you have Raven, you have Bonnie, you have Arcana here. And because Arcana gives AP, he kind of like gives an extra thing to your lineup. So that's the good part about him. But then again, the chance is not as high as Raven, because even though TA have also 100% chance of, removing the enemy buffs, like one of the enemy buffs in here, dispel 1 buff from its enemy and absorb 50% of its enemy's AP, the dispel is not reliable. Like if you do want to dispel all 5 enemies' immunity, like you're gonna need to retry a lot of times, even though you are using TA. So sometimes, most of the time, I will always gonna rely on my Raven, because Raven have the highest chance of dispelling enemy buffs using her third skill. So the most reliable dispeller, this one, Raven. Hence why she is a Simmer legendary. So going back into Arcana, like this is still as unreliable as TA. So you're gonna need to redo this a lot of time, and but this is kind of a nice replacement for TA. If you don't have TA yet, but I'm guessing by now, like a lot of players already have TA. And the bonus part in here is that it has a 50% chance of inflicting miss straight up for 2 turns to your enemy. So, yeah, the chance is very, very low, 50% chance. And also because this hits only once, this is totally unreliable. If you do want to inflict miss straight up to your enemies, you better use, other Esper. But this is nice, like there are not many Esper that can inflict AoE miss straight up. So yeah, if you do need this debuff, then you can think about Arcana. But then again, here is the reason why Arcana is very, very unpopular. You've seen like all those skill explanation. So what is he? Is he a fighter? Is he a DPS? Is he a controller? Is he a support? Nobody knows. He is all over the place. Like his debuffs doesn't help him in inflicting more damage as a DPS, and then as a support, his chances of inflicting debuff is also unreliable, and as a controller, nothing on him stops the enemy except for this stun here. And also this only hits a single enemy. So yeah, jack of all trades is a lot of the time in a lot of RPG games is useless, because in a team fight you do want every single character to specialize in something that they are good at, while Arcana is a very average man. But I can understand, like in every game, you do need this kind of heroes, like Esper, like a very average man for to do everything averagely. So yeah, that's the thing about Arcana. So if you do need a sub and everything, sub DPS, sub controller, sub support, then he's the guy. But again, it's much better for you to just bring 5 experts who specialize in their respective job rather than bringing this guy here. So hence why he's not popular. But after this, I'm gonna show you how much damage he can actually deal, because the percentage number is alright. The only thing bad is that this single target damage, because this is on the second skill, the number only goes up to 200%, while any other single target DPS Esper, they will be able to deal up to 270% single target damage. So his single target damage is quite low, considering that his Divinate shows that he focus more on his imprisonment's violent damage when the Barrel's HP is full. Imprisonment is his second skill in here. So yeah, he deals quite low single target damage as a fighter, but you will see that his AoE damage is actually quite okay, because any other AoE DPS Esper will deal on average 100% attack damage here. So going into the growth, obviously because he is a fighter, you do want him to go up to level 60, unless you only aim for his, debuffs and or like stealing enemy buffs here. Then you just get him up to level 50. Like this is if you don't have any other choice, like if you don't have TA yet and you need to remove the enemy's immunity, then yeah, use Arcana. Otherwise, the developer already gives you a hint here. Increase ally attack in point war, knockout, and beat bout. So yeah, obviously, like, he is not the best in PvE content, so he is mostly gonna be useful in PvP. But then again, there are a lot of better choices than Arcana in PvP. So yeah, and also because this steals buff, you need to steal the enemy buffs first for this to take effect. So you need the enemy to move first. But you all know from experience, if the enemy manages to move first, it will be too late for you to recover back, because they gonna kill you first before you are able to do anything. And that is the biggest weakness of Arcana, because he is a fighter. His stats is not good on the HP there. Like his highest stats is on his attack. So being very, very squeezy, if he let the enemy move first, then he has a very high chance to die first. So you do need a lot of Esper to support him to stay alive, while he also deals subpar DPS, like not as much DPS as a main DPS Esper. So that's why if you do need protection, it's much better to let your support protect a real DPS out there compared to protecting someone that doesn't deal pure DPS to the enemy. And hence why he is kind of like very, very unpopular. And going to his resonance, the second one gives him bonus accuracy for each surviving enemy, and the fourth one ignoring resist. So this is really good for him to be able to put all of this debuff, but then again, none of his resonance increase his DPS. So he kind of like fail as a fighter, that's why. So going into his Ascension, also his Ascension gives him attack and defense, not the best on the defense part. And the third one is the one that gives him the 30% AP for each buff stolen. And now going into the fourth, increase accuracy, the fifth, increase attack, and the sixth, increase speed. So this is obviously the best one is the speed, considering that he also have 105 base speed in here. So he can be a very, very fast Esper, but the problem is in his rival rune. They give him War Set instead of the Windwalker, so he won't be able to be the first one to move because of the loss in speed, because he used the War Set instead of the Wind Set. But that is logical, because he needs to steal buff, so he needs to let the enemy to move first. But like I said, like if the enemy manages to move first, then he already lose. Like what's the purpose of giving him the bonus 10 speed in here? if his purpose is to let the enemy to move first. This is much better to go into critical damage or critical rate at least, so, increasing his DPS further rather than trying to give him speed while also trying to prevent him to be the first one to move in his lineup. So yeah, that's why Arcana is just all over the place there. So the rivalry, the second one also gives, this one, the Mui also gives ages. Like all allies gain one shield for 2 at the start of combat, still strength 15% of the wearer's maximum HP. Dude, this is a fighter. He doesn't have that much HP. So why do you give him ages in here? So yeah, this is probably the rare case where I'm gonna tell you don't follow the developer's recommendation in here. Why? Just why? Like any other episode, I will always gonna tell you just follow the developer's recommendation from the rival rune in here, except for this Arcana, like just build him any way you want. Like for my example right now, I'm gonna give him a Thunder set. Just try to bring his DPS as high as possible, just to show you how much damage he can actually deal. So we're gonna go to level 60 enemies in here, maximum level to Arcana, because I still have him at level 50. So this is his maximum stats. Like I said, his highest stat is on his attack here. The HP is only 11,000, a standard HP for a DPS. Speed is really good, like 105. Now we have him sitting at a nice number as a DPS here, 185% bonus critical damage with a 2,300 attack here using this rally. So we're gonna see how much damage he can actually deal. So AoE damage quite alright, like it's quite alright, not bad, like just like the skill description says, 110% attack damage for AoE is 10% higher than average. So AoE damage, no complaint there, is quite alright. And also the bonus here, yeah, this is a bonus if you can trigger this, So the main thing that you do need to judge is the damage first, because he's a fighter. So this is just a bonus. And you've seen that the miss rate up is barely touching the enemy just now. Hence why I told you the miss rate up is totally unreliable. So going into his second skill now, we're gonna try hitting this guy in here. Come on. So 21,000 damage. Like I said, like as a single target skill, Brian as our benchmark, she usually deal 40,000 damage. Using her third skill. So that's our benchmark, 40,000 damage for a single target damage. So because he used it on his second ability, this goes up only to 200% attack, hence why you see that low number, 21,000 damage. It's quite alright number, like if you do consider this other effect from this skill. But then again, like I said, like it's just all over the place. Like, are you trying to debuff the enemy or are you trying to kill the enemy? So yeah, that's Arcana, and this is the basic ability damage. Quite alright. The attack down is reliable. Not that reliable. Like it has a 50-50 chance of inflicting. So yeah, that is Arcana, guys. So thanks for watching this episode, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.